Welcome to the Dark Entertainment Network. I am the Gothic Rose, and this is my official Welcome to the Den on my first TikTok Live, where you can find me every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you would like to send me a story, please email me at welcometothedenpodcast@gmail.com. I love to talk the weird, the macabre, the spooky, the creepy. And now, every week, Monday through Friday, you can get the Daily Dive in 5, which is the biggest news of the day in roughly 5 minutes. So you can find everything, including these lives, on Spotify and YouTube. And Spotify has a little bit more content that goes a little bit deeper into some of my more interesting theories, shall we say. So, tonight, I am talking about the Pentagon recently released information that there are flying objects in the sky, but there's no proof of alien life. And I find this interesting because what are they trying to tell us about where these craft come from? Are they not otherworldly? This is interesting. Quite the development. Now, back a few months, I did a podcast called The Lights Over Bullville. So around here, there is Route 302 in Bullville, and I was able to get some eyewitnesses, basically. I got some eyewitness accounts of what happened that night and what they saw. And different people remember different pieces. But what has been recorded is many people on camera saying that they saw lights in the sky from something unidentified. And the people I spoke to identified this as the quote, mothership. They said that they were driving down Route 302 in Bullville the night that this happened. And this area is very rural. There are no streetlights. So you can see and hear everything coming. There's just not a lot of sound, not a lot of lights. You can see all the stars. So the story that I was able to put together is that these three individuals were driving down Route 302 and they saw some lights in the distance, and suddenly there was a very large metal looking object that was flying over the car. And either they stopped the car themselves, the driver, and the people in the car chose to stop, or it was stopped on its own. And some of them one remembers getting out of the car, one doesn't remember much, and one says they did not get out of the car. But they all said that they felt like things were different when they got back, and possibly that time was lost. But in describing this quote mothership, they said it was bigger than cities. It was like a floating planet, and it was absolutely bigger than anything they've ever seen. It went for miles and covered the sky. So maybe when people do see these objects in the sky, they're much farther away than we think. Or there can be different sized ones, but this one happened to be the size of its own city. And it was described that the light was so bright that you couldn't really function. See, hear, speak. You just wanted to protect yourself from this light. So it's a very interesting story because they're not sure if time was missing or not. And there was some questions about exactly who was in the car because one of the people says he wasn't there, but the person who doesn't believe they got out of the car that night says the person who doesn't believe he was there was there. So it's very interesting to see what people remember, what their mind lets them remember, and what could have happened. Because, like I said, this is the Pine Bush area of New York, and it is one of the biggest spots for UFO and UAP sightings. And I did a podcast a few weeks ago about the dead lakes and how the rumor is that these ships that everyone saw in the sky, which would disappear over the mountains, would basically submerge into these lakes. And that is why nothing grew. The other theory is that because there were so many resorts around in the early 1900s, 20s, and 30s, that they put so much chlorine in the water to let people swim without being bothered by fish, that that is what happened. So there's all of these theories, and it's very interesting because there could be truth to both. Actually, they don't need to be one or the other, mutually exclusive. It could be that, yes, possibly these craft submerged into these lakes and that's where they hid, because everyone would actually set up rows of chairs in a specific field right here to watch the light show, and then they would light them up really fast and move into formations, and then they said that they would light them up so brightly that they would all look away and they were gone and it was dark again. So it could be that, and it could also be that the chlorine was used as well. And that's a double whammy on these dead lakes. So another interesting story I heard from this same group of people, but now another person was involved, was that they were driving one night in the area. They didn't say it was 302 Bullville, but they were by a cornfield. And they believed that they were being chased by a police helicopter that was going really fast over them but wasn't making noise. So they pulled over into a cornfield and started to run. Don't know why, but that was their instinct. And then they saw lights in the cornfield, thinking it was the cops. And one of the group of three ran away and was gone for 4 days, but does not know where he was and actually doesn't remember the incident really much at all. But the other two people with him remember it clearly. Now, this person that disappeared for 4 days also told a story that was put on camera. He volunteered a story, and it was recorded at the Pine Bush Diner, which is called the Cup and Saucer Diner. It's actually a really great diner. And all of these people went to tell their stories, and it's actually out on a DVD. So he told his story there, and then he told another story to us where he says he woke up unable to move, but floating over his bed with his nose on the ceiling. And then he saw a face that didn't look quite human in his face. And then that was about maybe 11 p.m. And he woke up at 4 p.m. the next day in his bed and then moved out of that house. So I found that really interesting because, you know, people have a lot of stories around here, and there are some who speak very, very openly on YouTube and everywhere that they see these craft over the homes, their homes. 1, 2, 3 of them. And it's very normal around here. And when something strange happens in this area, a very common answer, an accepted answer is, oh, that's just the aliens. And everyone's, oh, yeah, no, it's just the aliens. So I'm going to do a live dive right now, and I'm going to do Pine Bush UFO DVD if anyone is interested. It might be at the Pine Bush UFO Museum. So let's see. It says Pine Bush UFO DVD. Oh, there's a whole set here, you guys. And there's a ring of lights. That's supposed to be one of the lights over Bullville, this giant ring of lights. And that's what they said the ship looked like. It was round. So the Times Union, and it's telling me not too much yet. Hold on. New York UFO 1983, and there's footage from this night. So I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to link it in description when I put up the podcast. So this is just an unidentified flying object or unidentified anomalous phenomena. Why do they have to do that? Forget it. It's a UFO. And it's really interesting because the report was immediately and passionately attacked by many, including some in the military, as flawed and misleading. Indeed, perhaps the only thing that Democrats and Republicans can agree on these days is the need for more transparency in UAP information, such as strange political bedfellows as New York Senators Chuck Schumer, Kristen Gillibrand, and their across-the-aisle peers Marco Rubio and Mike Rounds co-sponsored legislation to declassify UAP records. So they're saying they could be spacecraft, but they're not saying that they are or not. So back to this DVD collection. So it looks to be, I'm not sure if this is it, but it says from the fab world of Jerry Anderson UFO. I don't think that that's it. I don't think that that's what I'm looking for. But you can visit the Pine Bush UFO and Paranormal Museum to find out a lot about the history here. But it's really interesting because everywhere you go in the town, even the Mexican restaurant has aliens eating tacos painted in their windows, and the firehouse has a spaceship with a cone, a clear cone, and they have a cow being lifted into this and it lights up at night. And the whole place really does have a connection to that world out there. And I just find it really amazing because we don't quite know what's out there, but there is more and more and more evidence that we are not alone. And I have had an experience here myself, literally in this house. And I said, when I get to 10,000 followers, I will absolutely tell that story. But I wanted to give you guys these two firsthand accounts of these UFO or UAP sightings back in the 1980s in the Pine Bush area, with many of them being recorded by not just one or two people, but 50 or 60 or more witnesses. So it's pretty amazing what's out there or what could be out there. And if you take a look at my posts, I put it up a few times actually, these photos that were taken over my home of what looks like a triangular shaped craft with a door that opened, looks like something dropped out. And then in another picture, you can't see anything but two greenish yellow glowing windows with what looks like a being inside. Now, we can't be sure what this is or isn't, but we can be sure that it is something that can't be explained easily unless someone wants to give us that explanation, and it doesn't seem like they do. So I'd like to know, any of you out there, if you have had any sort of experience just seeing something in the sky, an experience possibly with an encounter, close encounter of the third kind. Have you made contact? Have you been abducted? Do you believe in that sort of a thing, or do you think that it can't happen? Because I told you, at the UFO Museum and Festival 2 years ago in June, I met Travis Walton. So he's the famous abductee from the movie Fire in the Sky. And he had a very interesting vibe about him. Like, he knew stuff beyond what the rest of us knew. It was almost like talking to someone in from another world, from another world. So I just want to know what you think about all of this. Do you believe? Do you not believe because you've never seen anything, you've never experienced anything, so you think this can't be true? Did you not believe and were skeptical beforehand, but had an experience and now believe? Or did you never need an experience to believe? Do you believe that the blood type Rh negative has to do with having some sort of extraterrestrial DNA? Do you watch shows like The Truth Is Out There, Ancient Aliens, The Unexplained? Do you watch any sort of mysteries of the unknown or unsolved mysteries? Remember that from the 80s? They had a lot of UFO stories back then, and they were so captivating. So, with that, I just want to know what you think of all of this and what you believe we might be sharing our solar system with, our planet with. What are we sharing the universe with? Let's go beyond all of that. Do you believe in an inner earth? There's supposed to be 7 inner layers of earth, which to me coincides with Dante's Inferno, the 7 layers of hell. Is there a layer of earth in between outer earth and the 7 layers of hell? There's 7 layers of earth. Is that where these craft come from? Are they not from outer space, another planet? Are they from our planet? Just that's where all the technology is. It's underground with a whole other group of people. So anytime we see a cryptid or some sort of strange animal from another realm, another timeline, is it from inner earth also? This timeline, another timeline. I mean, there's so much out there to be questioned, and I'm going to question all of it on the Dark Entertainment Network. So, with that, I am going to say thank you for joining me on this episode in the Den, and I will see you on the next one. I am the Gothic Rose. Check you later.